All right, this is video 2 for the Space Invader, and we have just put together the designer side of this app, and we are going to go over and start talking about the blocks. Okay, so the first thing, we have this ship, and this is what we want to control, and I want to be able to move it back and forth. So we've worked with edge reach and we've worked with flung. And neither of those are right, so let's just kind of scroll down. Touch down, maybe touch up, oh, I like touched. So when I touch my ship, I basically want to move it back and forth at the bottom of my app to line up with the invader and to be able to shoot it. So when I do this, I want my ship, let's see here, back and forth in math, that's on the x-axis. So I'm going to see if I can set the ship x-axis to something. Set ship x2. Got it. Oops. And I'm wrong. I don't want the touched. Okay? Because that touching it isn't going to do what I need. I want to drag it. Haha. I want to drag it back and forth. So I'm going to set the ship's x value to the current x, whatever I've been dragging it around. All right, so now this chunk of code will allow me to move my ship back and forth and move it around to shoot the aliens. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is that bullet. Okay, so right now it's just sitting in the middle of the canvas and it's totally visible. Okay, now when that screen starts, when the screen initializes, okay, when the screen initializes, I don't want people to be able to see that ball. So I'm going to try to set the visibility of the ball. See if I can change it. There it is. Set ball 1 visibility to, and then I'm going to use some logic and say false. Okay? So right there, it has now made the ball disappear, so I can't see it. It's still on there, it's still there, but we, the user, can't see where it's at. Okay? Now, I am going to want to be able to shoot that. So in order to shoot it, in order to shoot the ball, we're going to go in and we're going to use that touch. So I'm not dragging it. My finger's not staying on the screen going back and forth. I'm just touching that spaceship, and we're going to get that to shoot the ball. So the first thing we have to do is we have to make sure that that ball is coming out of the right area of the sprite of my ship. So I'm going to have to call the ball to move to the right X and Y coordinate. Okay? Now, very intuitively, we're just going to say, well, I want it to go from the ship. So I'm just going to find the ship's X value and to find the ship's Y value. Okay? And that feels really intuitive, but something goofy happens when you do it this way because it always locates the sprite in the upper left corner. So I actually, if I leave it like this, it's going to look like the bullet is shooting from right there. And in fact, even a little bit higher. Yeah, that's the way it would look. Okay? And I want it to shoot right out of the tip of my rocket right there. In order to do that, we got to use a little math. Okay? So first, I am going to take and say I want it to go right to the rocket, to the ship X value. Okay, but I want to add something to it, so I got to go and find the add right there. Okay, so we're going to go to the ship X value, but then I'm going to add in the rocket ship width. Okay. Still, this is going to be a little bit goofy. Going back to the designer, what we just did was we took the ball and then moved it to the width. So now we're over here where it's firing from. The way to get it where we want to then, still with math, this time we're going to do a little division. Okay, we're going to take the width of the ship and we're going to divide it in half. Okay, so again, we moved it to wherever the ship X value is. Then we added in the width, but divided that by 2. Okay, so in the designer, we add in the width, but only half of the width, which will put it right there. Now, if we want it to look like it's coming out of the ship, we maybe are going to move it down and say something like, oh, let's do it out of the rocket ship and minus 10 pixels, minus 5 pixels, minus 3 pixels. Especially if in our sprite image there's a little open space, like it would look funny if it just appeared right there, we might have to subtract it. Now, we don't know that though for the Y value until we do our first build. So we're going to have to wait and maybe adjust that if we don't like what we end up with. Now that the ball's moved there, oh, we got to remember, it's invisible. So I'm going to duplicate this, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to say, hey, let's make this true. Okay, so now we can see the ball. And just like when we were doing the Pong game, we need to give it a speed and a heading. So let's see here. Let's go to the ball and say set speed, set ball speed, and set ball heading. Set ball speed. And then I think I might be able to do a shortcut, duplicate, change this to heading. This is going to be a little different than before. Okay, so this is not quite the same because I am just going to set the speed to a constant number. Okay, so it's not what I'm flinging it at. It's not, I'm just going to say, hey, let's try 5. Okay, if that's too slow, we'll make it faster after our first build. If it's not fast enough, or if it's too fast, we'll slow it down a little bit. And then the same thing with the ball heading. Because I'm shooting straight up, a little bit of math, that's at 90 degrees, so I'm going to make this 90. All right, so now we are able to shoot. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to talk about is what happens with the bullet. So if the bullet goes out and misses the enemy, eventually it's going to reach the edge. And I need to tell it what to have happen. Well, I don't want the bullet just sitting up at the edge, so I'm going to, again, when the ball reaches an edge, I'm going to duplicate this and set the visibility to false, because I don't want anyone to see that. And then, let's see here. So we can move the ship. We make the bullet invisible. We can now fire the bullet, and then when it reaches the edge, the bullet disappears. This is a good place to stop the video because we don't have quite enough time to finish it and start making another video. So we'll wrap this up, I think, in the next one.